Oh, hey everybody, welcome back to Waffle Ladders, where we climb through history's attic, knocking over boxes and exposing the weird, dusty nonsense they didn't bother teaching us in school. Sure, you learned about the Declaration of Independence and maybe, just maybe, something about the Civil War. But did anyone mention the time a tornado tried to delete 3 states? I didn't think so. So grab your monocles and let's unravel 10 insane historical events they don't teach you in school. It's gonna get bumpy. Let's climb the ladder. Number 10, the Great Tri-State Tornado, 1925. Ever seen a tornado so mad it just keeps going? At 70 miles an hour? On March 18, 1925, one tornado marched across Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana like it was doing a speed run of the Midwest. 26 towns obliterated, 900 dead, and 2,800 injured. This beast had estimated speeds of 300 miles an hour, which is an F5 category. Finger of God type stuff. Oh, and it traveled 219 miles, a record in 3.5 hours. That is beyond insane. But somehow this isn't a Netflix documentary? Seriously, they teach us about Paul Revere yelling on a horse, but they skip this natural disaster on performance-enhancing drugs? Number 9, the Dorr Rebellion, 1842. Rhode Island said, voting? For guys without land? How dare you? Stemming from a colonial charter from the 1600s, mandating land ownership to vote. This left 60% of men disenfranchised. Enter Thomas Dorr, who basically said, this voting system sucks, and tried to give the average white guy the vote. He was able to set up a parallel government, winning an election and moving his new government's forces to try and take Providence Arsenal. That failed. Dorr was actually captured, tried, and convicted of treason. Just a year later, a new constitution was established to give more people the right to vote. And Dorr was released. But go ahead, ask your 8th grade history teacher if they've heard of it. Spoiler alert, they haven't. They were busy grading essays on the Louisiana Purchase. Number 8, the Ludlow Massacre, 1914. Coal miners walked out to strike in Colorado for safer conditions and better pay. The company, which was Rockefeller owned, said no, and they sent in the National Guard and private security. This turned into a conflict with at least 24 dying, including women and kids. This was less of a labor dispute and more of a real-life power imbalance flex. This led to the Colorado Coalfield War, and hundreds more died. This did eventually end in improved workers' rights. So no, America's labor rights didn't just pop into existence one day because someone said, please. Number 7, the Bonus Army March, 1932. 17,000 World War I veterans camped in DC asking for the money they were promised back in 1924. However, they weren't to get their money until 1945. So that rightly caused them to lose patience. I mean, wouldn't you? So they set up camp in Anacostia, a neighborhood in DC. At first, their plight was being considered, and the House passed the Patman Bonus Bill. However, the Senate rejected it. This caused a ruckus, and Hoover ordered them removed. He eventually sent in tanks and the National Guard and burnt down the compound. A couple dozen ended up dead, and many were injured. This was a key factor in Hoover's landslide presidential loss. Like they say, nothing says thank you for your service like a military eviction notice. On a positive note, the veterans did get their pay in 1936. Number 6, the Doctor's Riot, when med school prep meant robbing grandma's grave. So here's a fun 18th century health tip. If your loved one died in 1788 in New York City, you might want to double check if they're still in the ground. Why? Because med students back then were a little short on practice bodies. So naturally, they turned to the local cemetery clearance sale. No permission required. Things boiled over when a group of kids spotted a human arm just casually dangling out of a Columbia College anatomy lab window, because apparently subtlety wasn't on the syllabus. Within hours, a 5,000 strong angry mob had formed. Picture torches, pitchforks, and the collective scream of, "That's my aunt, you monsters!" They stormed the labs, trashed cadavers, and the military was eventually called in. By the end, at least 20 people were dead, dozens injured, and several Columbia medical students reconsidering their career choices. New laws banned grave robbery, and robber-proof caskets began being sold. Slick salesmen never pass up a chance to fleece the public. Number 5, the Wilmington Insurrection, 1898. Wilmington, North Carolina, a city where black people had the audacity, the sheer nerve to own businesses, run newspapers, and win elections. I mean, what were they thinking? This just wasn't going to be allowed by the elite white community. What to do? Why, bring in firepower, duh. They called it a riot, but let's be real, it was America's only successful coup. An armed white group burned down the black-owned newspaper, murdered dozens of black citizens, and literally kicked the elected officials out of office at gunpoint. Then they installed their own guys, like it was just a really aggressive episode of Undercover Boss. And how did the government respond? All right, they didn't. No arrests, no trials, not even a strongly worded letter. Just decades of calling it a disturbance, like it was a rowdy barbecue. So yeah, if you've ever thought, wow, things are kind of unstable these days. Number 4, the Battle of Blair Mountain. An actual battle with guns in America over labor rights. In 1921, 10,000 coal miners in West Virginia said, you know what? We're done being paid in company script, which is money, but can only be used in the company store. So naturally, they did a sensible thing. They grabbed their rifles and went to war. Literally. Welcome to the Battle of Blair Mountain, where striking miners fought 3,000 armed lawmen, deputies, and coal company goons in the largest labor uprising in U.S. history. This wasn't a picket line. This was a full-on trench warfare in Appalachia. Fun fact, the coal barons were so scared, they begged the U.S. government for help. And the president said, sure, let's send in the actual army and drop bombs from airplanes. Yeah, that happened. Because nothing says, let's talk about your work conditions like aerial bombardment. So what was the actual outcome? The coal companies won and the Union was crushed. Number 3, Prohibition poisoning. 1920s. The roaring 20s. Jazz, speakeasies, and the government casually poisoning its own citizens for drinking. Wait, what? So here's the deal. Prohibition made alcohol illegal, but Americans were like, LOL, no, and just drank bootleg moonshine instead.
Hey Dad, here's a sample of our latest batch of moonshine. It's really, really good.
Not now, you know.
Come on, I'm telling you, it's really, really good.
Okay, I get it, but really not now, come on.
Come on, look how clear it is. Those tips on Reddit worked unbelievably.
All right, this is just, let's talk about this later. You didn't see that. So what did the government do? Crack down on illegal stills? Increase education? No, they said, let's add deadly chemicals to industrial alcohol and hope that kills the vibe. Totally reasonable. Result? Thousands of people died. Others were blinded and paralyzed, all for the crime of enjoying a cocktail. But don't worry, officials called it a necessary deterrent. You know, like murder, but with a moral lesson. Next time someone says the government would never hurt its own people, just remind them, didn't you once make bathtub gin lethal? Number 2, the Tuskegee Syphilis Study, 1932 to 1972. You want to talk conspiracies? The US government ran a medical study where they let 600 black men suffer with syphilis on purpose, without telling them, for 40 years. These mostly poor, uneducated men were never treated even after penicillin came into vogue. When they were being tested, they were falsely told they were being treated for bad blood, a nonsense term that could mean anything. In 1972, a whistleblower came forward and the whole thing came to an end, with Bill Clinton apologizing and the victims receiving $37,000. Yeah, 40 years as a guinea pig and they got less than $1,000 a year. Typical government corruption. But hey, how about another couple billion for Ukraine? So next time someone says, but that could never happen here, show them this, then walk away slowly. Number 1, founding of the Federal Reserve, 1913. You know what's great? Giving the power to print money to a group of bankers on Christmas Eve without a congressional quorum. The Federal Reserve is about as federal as Federal Express, owned by private banks, not voted in, not even American in many cases. Oh, and they don't have to show us their books. It's like putting one of the students in charge of the punch bowl during the prom dance. I mean, what could go wrong? Their biggest job is protecting the value of the dollar. And how is that going? Oh, down 99% in buying power since they started. You better give them a raise. So there you have it, 10 pieces of US history that didn't make it into your school textbook because they were either too messy, too rebellious, or too embarrassingly true. What else do you think got buried under the historical rug? Let us know in the comments. Smash that like button like you're storming the Bastille, and subscribe for more irreverent truths. And as always, keep climbing. And in the morning, I'm making waffles.